Welcome to the THC Show. I hope you can hear me. We tried a couple of times without sound again today, but I think we're working. So anyway, welcome to the show. This is the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is where we talk about those three very important letters in our alphabet, the T, the H, and the C. You know, truth, hope, and change. Well, truth, hope, and change surrounding THC is mostly what we talk about here, and for good reason. There's been a war against THC. It's been public enemy number one for over 100 years now here in Canada, a little longer than that in the States. Prior to that, however, for over 4,000 years, it was a friend. It was a very valuable commodity. There was people trading for it. There was wars fought over the possession of it, and not because you weren't allowed to possess it, but because everybody wanted to possess it. It was, after all, nature's buffalo for the human beings. It was the best thing that you could come up with respect to a plant. It could do just about everything for you. So THC is that one little component of that plant that became the target of those people that wanted to destroy that plant as far as competition goes. It was the world's greatest textile before that. It was used for all sorts of different things. It was medicine for thousands of years for all sorts of different things. And it was really the advent of modern technology that was the dooming of cannabis for the last 100 years or more. It was because the Rockefellers had the complement to Henry Ford's automobile, which was now becoming all the rage, and that was the fuel to operate it. There was two types of fuel back in the day, and they knew that as well. Alcohol was a very viable fuel made from living plants, and gasoline gleaned from oil reserves deep down in the earth was the other one. And the Rockefellers had the rights to the oil reserves, and they lobbied and orchestrated behind the scenes to put the kibosh on the competition, which was plant-based alcohol. And the best source of the plant-based alcohol was cannabis by far. We still use plant-based alcohol. We call it ethanol here in our world. Ethanol typically is made out of corn. Corn is one of the better plants to use to make a living fuel out of. However, cannabis is 10 times more efficient than corn, so you can see why the Rockefellers really wanted to have cannabis put down. But they had much more impetus than just that, because they were also getting involved in modern medicine and in a correlation, what would it be, a business partnership or some sort of a deal that they had with the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company. It was around the same time as they implemented federal prohibition on cannabis that they really had a handle on having pills, synthetic replacements for the herbs that people had been using, and cannabis was one of the main ones that they used for a long time. And they came up with a scheme to demonize the herbs in general by saying that all herbs were sort of voodoo medicine, or you couldn't get standardized dosages, and the modern medicine had arrived. We could all cheer in the streets because the medical profession was going to have isolated pills and standardized dosages for everything that could ail you. And then there was a real campaign by these pharmaceutical companies to put down the different herbs and especially cannabis. So it's been 100 years of this, and it was so wrong right from the start. It's no more right today than it ever was, but it's still happening today, even though you might think it's not. I mean, we certainly won the public relations war, convinced an up-and-coming liberal government that had sunk below opposition status in the legislature to run on a platform of legalizing cannabis for everybody. Recreational cannabis stores. And that's what they ran on, and oh my goodness, what a success. They got a majority government from below opposition status to a majority government running on a platform of legalizing marijuana. And so legalize they did for their friends to own the companies and for the rich people that could afford it and those without barriers to access it. And that's the world that they want to live in. They don't want to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to say they're sorry and suffer any of those consequences. They don't even want to admit that cannabis has medical value. And still here in Canada, along with the United States at the federal level, cannabis has no official medical value. Even though well documented, well proven, the science is in long time ago, numerous studies in numerous areas to show that cannabis is an anti-inflammatory, cannabis is a sleep aid, cannabis is all of these things medically, And many people have found that out despite prohibition over the years. And the medical community of people using cannabis and needing cannabis are the ones that drove us activists to try to get legalization. We did it really on behalf of the people that couldn't stand up for themselves, literally in most cases, or many cases. And we put the medical users, the ones that really needed it, the front and foremost position within our actions to try to get some form of legalization. When we came up with just let's open stores anyway, that became the thing that Mark Emery had done it with pipes and bongs, despite legislation against such things, and even though raided on numerous occasions, he was selling seeds and continued to do so and continued to open it every time. And then in behind him came Dana Larson's dispensary, then came the Herb School, then came Karuna. There was, I guess the first one I should say was the Compassion Club. The Herb School was second after that. But we had the Compassion Club, and there again it was the medical users that we put first and foremost in the front of our goals of what we needed to achieve. And we fought hard for the Compassion Club. It wasn't an easy battle. There was lots of opposition and attempts to shut it down. But it continued and maintained until legalization. Legalization has now shut down the Compassion Club, but prior to that, no other scheme that they came up with could do that. And other dispensaries followed in their suit, and more and more and more. And we had a real mainstream underground marketplace with storefronts, with advertising, with branding, with people paying taxes, and right out in the open as best we could, we tried to force the issue by doing it. And really, we kind of did, except that they didn't give us what it was that we were fighting for. The legalization that we were given, and not that we were given, that we earned, except we earned far more than what they ended up giving us. What they've given us is a legalization that does not satisfy the needs of the daily users and the medical patients, which are the ones that we had been fighting for all along. Those people are still left out in the dark, out in the cold, without cannabis in any dignified and reasonable way to obtain other than what they always had. Those that were lucky had a supply chain of some sort. They knew a grower, they knew somebody who could hook them up, and they could get their needs met at, not too outrageous a cost. But that's on the far end of that scale. On the other end were so many medical users that really couldn't get what they needed. And if they did, it was very, very expensive. And many people spent money on cannabis that they would have otherwise used for rent and food and other things. And it was horrible. And it gets even worse than that. As some of these medical patients were raided, their gardens were stolen, and their lives were taken a lot as well. It's been just a horrible, horrible war for a very long time. And, we really thought we had it won, sort of. I mean, not all of us. There were some skeptics, including Freddie Pritchard, who painted a pretty clear picture, really, of what the Liberals were going to be trying to implement here, which was basically Prohibition 2.0, where anybody that wanted to buy from the cartel or get a license, if they could at all, at a very expensive cost, to grow for the cartel, well, they were going to be okay. But still, all the rest of the people that couldn't get those licenses to grow and wouldn't buy from the cartel, they're still going to be criminals. And in fact, there was extra money put into enforcement, extra enforcement rules that they could go with. They've really taken away a lot of our rights to do with this battle against people growing for cannabis. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. They're still wasting a whole whack of money. I don't know what it costs to have all those cops show up at the Victoria Buyers Club and raid that place again, but it's a huge bill, and it's a huge bill every time. And now what they've discovered, is that the avenues to accessing cannabis are going to continue to pop up wherever it is that they try to put it down. It's going to pop up somewhere else. There's always going to, as long as you can't trust the government weed, as long as the government weed is too expensive, and as long as there are barriers to poor people and daily users, then there is going to be an unregulated underground supply of cannabis. That is just, that's not, those aren't made up rules or made up laws. This is the laws of nature. Where there is a demand, there will be a supply. That's been proven with the drug trade all around the world, to the point where the gangsters in Mexico that are furthering the drug trade there are better armed and better financed than the government is that's trying to stop them. And they're literally at war, and there's many, many people dead in the process. And yet, still, people are getting access, because where there's a demand, there will be a supply. So there's still a huge demand for non-government weed. I hope that continues. I don't think people should be supporting these government stores as long as they're doing what they're doing on the enforcement end for the other side of it. And so now they're going after the online distributors. Well, they have been for a while, but they're focusing on it now because it's becoming a bigger problem. There's many hundreds of millions of dollars being lost to the underground marketplace that the government should otherwise be getting from people that they're buying off of them. Even though the prices on the online marketplace in many cases are a lot better than what you're going to find in the government stores, so those poor people, if they didn't have that access to cannabis and had to go to a government store, they'd be paying even more money into the government coffers than is already being taken out of the government coffers by their estimations. But it is just an absolute atrocious waste of Canadian tax dollars to go after these people. And when you listen to the rhetoric of how they want to justify what they're doing, they don't really hide the fact that they're running a protection racket. I mean, that's pretty clear in the language that they use. But they also keep throwing in there that this is about protecting the youth, because the youth can get access through these online sales. And oh my God, the youth, the youth, the youth. What about the children? Well, where are there ever any children that are actually harmed by any of this? Where is there any evidence? Where is there the outcry? Where is the communities getting together and having town hall meetings to talk about all their poor children that are being harmed because of online sales of cannabis, or cannabis in any respect at all? When legalization first happened, there was a spike in children being admitted to hospital for having gotten into their parents' edibles. Now, that spike in children being admitted to hospitals was not a spike in children getting affected by edibles. It was just a spike in hospital admissions, because now a parent could take their child to the hospital if they overdosed on the edibles without fear of a whole bunch of repercussions, like losing their children, losing their homes, getting charged with having cannabis. On and on that went. So prohibition was what was preventing people from actually getting their kids looked at when they thought there was a serious problem with their kids, even though there really wasn't. But thank goodness for that. And if that had been the case, if it had been the case that all of these children that were not being taken to hospital once they had overdosed on their parents' high-dose edibles, or actually I shouldn't call them high-dose edibles. I've been corrected on that. You know, I talk about high-dose edibles all the time, but really they're regular dose edibles. There's microdose edibles, and then there's regular dose edibles, and then, yeah, there are macrodose edibles, but then that's when you're talking up in the hundreds of milligrams, really. A kid gets into 25 milligrams, they're going to be showing signs that may be alarming to a parent who doesn't know what the implications of that are. But look how serious that is. I mean, if these children had actually been being harmed in serious ways, and not being taken to hospital because of it, but there was a bunch of damaged children out there in the world and a bunch of parents who were very concerned about it, there would be an outcry. There'd be town hall meetings, there'd be people calling into open line shows, there'd be all kinds of publicity about all these damaged children. And what's the government going to do about it? But we have none of that going on. Well, 4:19 already. I guess we did start a little bit late. In any case, what a bloody waste of money that is. They need to stop running this government for a taxpayer-funded protection racket. They need to deregulate cannabis. That's what they need to do. Get out of the regulation of cannabis business. Let farmers bring to market that which they want, charge what they want, see what the marketplace will bear, and that's what we need to do with this cannabis thing. This over-regulation of cannabis is making criminals out of people who are not criminals in the first place, and it's bringing with it all of those ills and consequences, those unintended consequences of prohibition that we had going on. The things that we were fighting against for all this time are still things that we're fighting against, except we've lost a whole bunch of people who aren't fighting with us because they think it's okay. They can walk into a store and pay pretty much the same thing as they were paying before legalization happened, and it's okay with them. But it's not okay for the people that can't do that. And it's not okay that this cartel runs the way that it runs and does what it does. And it's not okay that it doesn't allow for the regular value of edibles to be in the marketplace and available to people. And we're going to get into a lot more of that on the show today. But 420 it is. 420 means Mr. Wells is here. Wells, how are you?
Oh, I'm well.
That's good. Wells is well.
Very deep.
We're going deep, are we?
Oh, we're going deep, yeah.
What are you smoking today?
Today I'm smoking pink goo from Beard Brothers with some Miracle Alien cookie shatter.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't that fun?
That sounds like fun.
And then we got clear rolling papers too.
Oh man.
I know, right? Made of.
I used to use those
cotton,
quite a bit.
Made of cotton or something there.
No, they were made of cellulose made from cannabis.
Oh, no, this one's.
I'm not talking about that one, but the ones that they used to have, the ones that I used to use, were made from cannabis.
Oh, well, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were cool. I wonder why I stopped using those.
I wonder.
I don't know, because they were really cool. I like those a lot. You could see the weed in there and everything. It was good.
It was nice, right?
I like them. I'm just smoking a variety of different cannabis that we have available here with the Healing Wave.
So a Jeffrey joint?
Is that what you call them?
Well, if it's all mixed up a bit of variety, it's a Jeffrey, yeah.
Is that after Jeff Lundstrom?
No, it's just Jeffrey. You can actually Google it. Jeffrey is a combination of a bunch of things.
It could be. It could be a Jeff Gregg joint.
It could be.
Because you know what a Jeff Gregg joint?
A Jeff Gregg
joint. You know what a Jeff Gregg joint is?
No.
That's where you go to the Prairie Cup.
Yeah.
With Greg Williams.
With Mr. Lundstrom.
And Jeff Lundstrom is there.
Yeah.
And he's putting on the cup.
Yeah.
And he's got more strains of weed than any other cup has ever had in the history of cups. He went crazy about it, I guess. I think it was just a lot of growers that wanted to support the cup out there in Saskatchewan because they couldn't even believe it was happening in the first place. Mm-hmm. But, I had all these amazing strains of cannabis. And, of course, Greg Williams was brought there to help with the whole thing from Vancouver here.
Probably there.
Greg was our MC of our 420 events. He was Marijuana Man. He was the editor of Pot TV for such a long time. He had the longest running Pot TV show. And, unfortunately, we lost him a little while ago.
Yep. And
about a year ago or so. And it's a huge loss for us. But what Greg did at that particular cup with all those strains, he tried, folks. He tried, like all of us. He tried to do his due diligence and smoke all those different strains in a short amount of time. You had to do that and figure out which ones were best. I mean, he tried. But by the third day, he gave in.
Yeah.
He just took all the strains that he had,
put it all together,
and mixed it all together into a pile like about this big. And rolled that all up, and we smoked that for the rest of the day.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that's what I think of when I think of mixing joints together.
Oh, I'm smoking a good one.
420.
420 coming up. 9 days.
Woo!
A week this Thursday.
Oh, man.
Get your boost.
If you haven't got a booth, get a booth. But come on down to 420. It is going to be epic, as always, although they are still showing a little bit of rain.
All right, well, that's too far.
It's 10 days away.
We're not going to know until about Monday or Tuesday.
See the sun coming through the window? It did not say that on the weather report a few days ago at all. In fact, I don't even think it said that today.
No, we got to wait till about Monday or Tuesday.
It hopefully will be a nice day. But man, oh man, we have had the worst month of rain that I don't think I've ever had an April so full of rain.
I think it's actually less. I think it's. I don't think we're even near close to the rain total that we usually get in an April. But I remember last spring it was really warm.
Almost every day.
Yeah. Right?
This month so far, and they're still projecting 10 days in ahead. There's one sunny day in there, and it's not the 20th.
Well, I've heard that tomorrow and Thursday are going to be sunny.
Well, this is what I mean. They don't even know one day in advance, so I'm not worried about it. And by the way, all of you who understand sun dances,
we need one. Yeah. Maybe landlord will show up and do one for us.
Oh, he will. He for sure. He's been commissioned.
He's been commissioned?
Yeah, he's going to open the event on behalf of the Indigenous people here.
Nice. That's good.
So that'll be good.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the world's biggest joint there.
Yeah.
Going to have the world's biggest hot box there. Yeah. It's going to be epic. Mercury's is going to be here.
Yeah. Prada or something, and is it Prada?
You and I old guys talking about
I know, eh?
What do we know?
Thank you. Yeah, so we got Mercury's, Golden BSP, Prada West, Trade Nice, Savage Banks, Andres, DK, Scooby, Eclipse, Arrow, JT, Namilla, and Janelle Estates.
Nice.
420
protest.
And Hype Man Ronnie Ray and more guest speakers.
Yeah, Ronnie's going to introduce these bands because I personally don't probably give them the respect that they deserve as I'm an old fart. But
2 old farts.
420 protest 420 at gmail.com. That's how you can get much more information about all the things to do with sponsoring and booths and anything else you might want to know there if you want to be involved. You can get a hold of me through there as well. Just send an email to 420protest420 at gmail.com for information about that. It's going to be a blast. It just feels like we're bringing it back. It's like last year there was something dystopian about it almost.
Yeah.
It was the first year coming back after the pandemic. People didn't really know how to feel or how to act, or there was people that were there. You could see they were hesitant. There were people there that were so gung ho.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I think it's all gung ho.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all, hey man, let's have a great event. Let's do this.
And don't forget that Spicoli and his Love Cannon will be at the Canada Match booth.
Yeah.
Yes, and with some nice product from BC. Where was it? BC Bud.
Is that who's providing that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh.
Huh? Is it? Yeah.
BC Bud, the BC Bud boys.
No, not Bud Boys.
Oh no, okay, but
yeah,
BC Bud.
Yeah.
BC. So is
You're
that
thinking of Darren.
Yeah.
Right?
I say that. We should mention names.
Yes.
Darren is going to be there with his BC Bud guys.
Oh, there you go.
They're going to be sponsoring in some way by providing something for the volunteers or something like that. Cool. There's many ways to get involved. Getting involved is really cool. If you're going to be a volunteer, we do have shirts. Hopefully I don't get 100 volunteers, or I won't have shirts for everybody. But if we get 50 volunteers, then I'll have shirts for everybody.
Yeah, a shirt for you and I, right?
A shirt for you and I.
All right.
A shirt for you and I.
All right.
And what else do we know?
We got a lot of booths we have sold so far, right?
There's booths available. There's booths that are sold. You got to go and check it out. If you go to 420 protest 420 at gmail.com, they'll send you a site map. It'll show which booths have already been sold and which ones are available.
Do you know what booth numbers we are yet?
No, well, I could if I looked it up. But,
can you let me know by next week?
Yeah, by next week.
Because I know I'm one of your 4, right?
Also, 420vancouver.com has the poster up.
Oh,
that's it. Thank you.
Yay.
We've been asking for that, yeah.
Yeah, they've been so busy down there.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
thank you, 420 Vancouver.
Thank you to Cannabis Culture and 420 Vancouver for all the previous years of 420 that brought us to where we are today. We're going to try to maintain the traditions and the spirit of what this 420 has been to Vancouver for all of this time. Mm-hmm. So that's great. And really looking forward to it, but it is coming really, really fast. Yeah. Contact me or contact 428 protest.
I think I'm going to go screenshot that page and let people know that this is the 420 protest at Thornton Park is actually on the Cannabis Culture page.
Sure.
Because we say we are the official one, right? And that's the official site. So I'm letting people
Dana
know.
Larson's going to come and give a speech, which is so epic always. We're going to have Michelle Sikora. There's going to be.
Did you get a hold of her yet?
I messaged her today. I think she messaged me back and told me what time she wanted to go on.
Okay, good. Because I mentioned it to Doug.
Yep. So we're putting those things all in place as far as which speakers are going to speak where. We might have Rick DeCamel back doing some speaking for us.
Do you remember that lady who made you
that
tie-dye last year, Krista?
I do. In fact, I was looking at the memory.
She's coming.
Is she coming?
She wants to meet you.
I saw the shirt that she gave you.
Yeah.
And I saw a memory of the shirt she gave me last year.
Yeah. So she's going to be there with her husband. This is the very, very first 420.
Nice.
So, yes.
I think it's going to be a first 420 for a lot of people, I've heard. They're very excited about coming there for the first 420. Even a member of my staff is going to be at 420 for the first time in his life. So that's exciting for him. You can see his eyes lighten up as we talk about it every time.
420 is great, especially if the sun is shining. Oh, the sun is shining and the music's playing and everything. It's beautiful. It
is the best platform that we've grown over the years. Yeah. We've tried many ways to get our message out to people, and 420 is by far the best way. To gather that many people, to have that type of level of entertainment and excitement in the city, it brings in a lot of dollars for the city. The media will interview us and pay attention to what we say, and that's what this is all about. That's why it's 420 protest 420 Gmail, because it's front and center. Well, in the middle, it's a protest. That's what we're doing here. we're not celebrating yet. I mean, we always celebrate the plant because part of our protest is to show the value of the plant in people's lives and all the different ways that it helps our society and affects things. But primarily, first and foremost, we're there because we are not happy with what's going on with the policies around cannabis. And it's been going on for a very long time. They've wasted more money than we can calculate. They've ruined more lives than we can calculate. They've done more harm in more ways than you could possibly fathom. We've got people here on the streets that we've met now because we've been on the streets for quite a while, helping people to get off of those opioids. So many of the people that were living in tents, we're not sure where they're living now because they've been roasted out of their tents for the most part. There's about 80 different tents have been displaced in the decolonization of the streets here on the downtown east side. But in meeting many of those people, we have heard the nightmares of cannabis prohibition. We've had people come, one in particular is coming up, but there's lots of them. But I'll tell you this one story because it's not just, this is indicative. This one person back in the 70s was busted for like a half a joint and went to jail for it. In jail, a number of very seriously bad things happened to this individual. There was weed there on occasion, and he would use it when he could, but way more available in the prisons at that time were hard drugs, and he got himself addicted to hard drugs. That cycle downwards of addiction that happened with this person led him to be homeless and drug addicted on the downtown east side.
Wow.
And when he was telling me his story about this, in his mind, it all came down to that conviction for a half a joint that put him in jail, that got him addicted, that ended up ruining his life. And his story is common.
Wow.
There are so many people that have lost their jobs because of cannabis prohibition over the last 100 years here in Canada. So many people have then lost their housing.
Yeah.
They've lost the respect of their families because of the demonization of cannabis that's gone on.
Some dads have lost custody to their kids in separation.
Dads and moms.
Yeah.
Children have been lost. It's been a horrific attempt at the genocide of a culture of people that simply relate to the cannabis plant and refuse to be bullied into using alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs and other remedies because they understand how corrupt the world is. I mean, that was me, in my life growing up, defying the laws. I've defied a bunch of laws before I was old enough to get charged with anything.
Yeah.
But then once you get to those ages where, you're an adult now, a new responsibility kicks in. And then pretty soon into being an adult, I was only 19 years old when I moved in with the woman that became my wife for 17 years, and she had a child when I met her, and all the responsibilities that came along with that. I tried to live a responsible life from that point on, but I continued to use cannabis. For a variety of reasons, but the reasons I was just citing there. I knew the laws were corrupt.
Yeah.
I knew that I was not a criminal for using this product, and that was kind of my statement against those bad laws, was to use cannabis in ways like that.
Yep.
To the point where I ended up going to the pot rallies, and then I ended up, becoming an activist myself and quitting the day job that I had and been doing this ever since. But it was a large part because of the level of corruption about it all. The Canadian public, by the time they voted Trudeau in, on his platform of legalization, were pretty aware that prohibition wasn't right. That throwing young people into jail, giving them criminal records for having possession of cannabis in a world where you can access commercial tobacco, alcohol, and these other things makes no sense.
Yeah.
I've come up with a new term for it. It's criminal hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
That what's been going on from our governments over all this 100 years of prohibition of cannabis is criminal hypocrisy. It is just, and that's why we talk about the emperor wears no clothes.
Yes.
That's why I've talked about how the emperor is not only naked, but he's bent over, touching his toes, and he's prone, waiting to be penetrated. He's so fucking vulnerable. And the reason for that is because of the level of criminal hypocrisy that's been going on for all this time. That's what makes the emperor naked, is how hypocritical he is. Mm-hmm. And certainly, you know, like I say, in a world with alcohol and commercial tobacco, to be having most of our police resources focused on trying to eliminate people from having access to this, you know, medicinal herb that is a way better, you know, thing to be using on a Friday or Saturday night if you just want euphoria than is alcohol. And a way better thing to be smoking on a daily basis because it's neuroprotective and it's, you know, all these other medical values of inhaling cannabis fumes compared to commercial tobacco. But that's criminal hypocrisy. Yeah. It's criminal because they're treating all of us like we must be stupid as hell. They're pretending they are and treating us like we are. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, and when it comes to it, when they're doing it to make profit.
Yes.
And when people are being harmed in the process, now you've got a crime. Yeah. So now it's not just hypocrisy; it's criminal hypocrisy, and that's what we're fighting against. So. We have another guest in the studio.
I know. We talk about him, and the sun is shining. He must have done a dance.
I think he was probably doing his sun dance on the way down here.
Come on in. He got his glasses, sun hat on, his sunglasses on, and a good old Cannabis
t-shirt. Hey, Glenn, good to see you.
Good to see you,
man. You guys look like a pretty good match.
Wait till the show's over. Cut, print, yeah,
hey. You got the beads on and everything.
Bling on here.
So we hear that you're going to be opening 420 next
420.
Week. At Thornton Park.
Afro Man is coming.
That's afterwards.
That's
afterwards. No, he's not part of the.
We're not saying officially that Afro Man is going to be at 420.
Well, it'd be nice if he sees this. Come on down.
I'm not saying nothing.
At the after party.
He must be in town though, mustn't he?
Yeah, yes. I've been walking around.
If you were Afro Man and you were in Vancouver on 420 preparing for some after event.
An after event, right?
Where might you find yourself in the middle of the afternoon? But I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah.
But hey, Mercules is going to be here. I've been walking around Vancouver showing the poster.
Right, you're a walking poster.
Walking as the Grand Marshal, letting people know. Thornton Park is the place to be.
From a walking poser to a walking poster.
I'm so excited for 420. It's like Christmas for me, man.
It's putting a T in THC.
THC, yeah.
Nice.
Good to see you, Glenn. Haven't seen you for a while.
So, what kind of reaction are you getting out there in the public?
Oh, I'm getting a lot of good response. I get people recognizing me still. Say, hey, you opened up 420 for Cypress Hill. I say, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had people from Victoria come over, and so they're excited that 420 is at Thornton Park, and Mercules is going to be there. And
I've heard a buzz on the downtown east side. The people here are pretty thrilled that 420 is actually coming to the downtown east side.
Yeah.
So that was cool to hear as well.
It's closer to my home. I don't have to go all the way down to the beach. I like the beach, but I like to be close to home too, where it's easy access and that. You got SkyTrain there, you know. The city buses are quicker.
And if you want to go to the beach from Thornton Park, it's just a jog over to the seawall and then a beautiful walk along the seawall. You can do all of Stanley Park. It's a great place here in Vancouver. And I think Thornton Park, downtown east side is a rightful place to have this event at this point. I think the downtown east side
is so accessible for you.
Well, you take the water taxi too. It takes you right to Sunset Beach. Taxi. Yeah.
Well, that's
Falls Creek.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's from Falls. That's from Science World, isn't it?
Yeah.
It goes from Science World and it goes from Granville Island.
Yeah.
Never been on one of those.
Yeah, I took it one time. It was real fun. It's like
I've never been on one.
No?
No.
Well, there's something to take Michelle on.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So speaking of Michelle, Canamatch is doing well these days. Tell us a little bit about Canamatch for people who don't know.
Canamatch has got a Google app going on right now, so we're waiting for the Apple. We're waiting for the site to be updated so we can have the Apple one going. So we're getting still new registrations and stuff like that. So we're doing well.
You were up 4,200 at one point.
Yeah, 4,200. I can look on my phone right now. I guess.
Just like you people could look on your phone. What happens if they Google Canamatch? It'll come up and tell them how to download the app or something like that?
Yeah, it'll tell them.
Does it have your picture on the front?
No.
No?
They're not all trying to match with Glenn.
Oh,
This
okay.
is not can you match Glenn.
No.
Can't match
This
Glenn,
is
okay.
this is can you match? It's can a match with other people that also like the herb. It really solves that one of those initial problems with meeting somebody and you don't know much about them except they look beautiful to you. That do they or don't they imbibe in the spirituality of the sacred herb?
When the site went down, we lost some people, so we're at less now.
Oh,
We're at 2,283.
wow! So you're gonna
Remember,
go,
we were offline for 3 days when it got 3 months when it got hacked, right? So yeah, we've
but
lost.
there's a couple
some
thousand people there,
Yeah.
from numerous different areas.
like North
all around
America.
the world, but
Yeah.
primarily concentrated, you would say, in Canada?
Yeah, and the States.
Yeah, Canada and the States.
In the States, yeah. There's a few, San Francisco, a lot of states are in there too.
So it's not just about meeting that beautiful person and knowing right away that she's cool with the herb or he's cool with the herb. It's about finding people that might know where to help you find some herbs. So if you're traveling and coming into a new town or something, you can go to canamatch.ca. You can find people there that are from that area that can help you hook up.
We have a couples area, so like if you're a couple and you're traveling to, let's say, from Vancouver to San Francisco and you want to find some meds, you can hook up with another couple. They can show you around town where they can do what the good shops are in the States.
Nice.
And now you've made an acquaintance. Now you might make a friend. You've got somebody to smoke with, and vice versa. Let's say they come from San Francisco to Vancouver. You can look up the couples on our site. Say, hey, this is us. We'd like to know what to do here in Vancouver, and it makes friends. So
how much of a profile do you put on there? You don't just put "I love weed."
No, you can choose whatever you want.
So you can say whatever you want about
dabbing
yourself.
or whatever.
I love moonlight walks on the beach, or whatever you want to put.
Glenn's all about the
blues music, all kinds of stuff
All
like
kinds of
that,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can give you an example.
That's fun to just peruse, and see who's on there and see if there is somebody that just seems to share a lot of the different likes that you might have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Glenn likes the moon because every time I see him on his Facebook, he has a picture
Is he
of the
still
moon.
doing that?
Yeah, I'm still doing that.
You say Glenn likes to moon, did you say?
Yeah. He's always mooning every time I see him on Facebook.
I would drive by on a Friday night, there's Glenn. Oh my
Okay,
God.
so there's an example. Long walks,
nice.
dabs, adventure, dogs and cats. You can put in anything. Listening to
Nice.
music, sunset, cuddling, good conversation,
Well, that's
liberal,
beautiful.
right?
I
So
like
yeah,
that,
lots of choices, right?
Nice. And if you go on Canamatch, you can even find that particular one. We're not going to show you which one out of privacy
I'm not
concerns.
allowed to do that.
But that's on there, and there's a whole bunch of other ones
It's free
as
to
well.
sign up, so go ahead, right?
I hear the biggest joint's going to be there, though.
The biggest joint is going to be
It's
there.
supposed to be
65 pounds.
65 pounds.
They're going to not just going to be there; it's going to be rolled there.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
That should be something to see.
That's awesome.
That's
65
like-
pounds.
And then it's going to be burned.
You have to have workman's comp there because you can't lift over anything 50 pounds without a second person.
No one person gets to lift that joint.
And that one guy, I keep forgetting his name, but you know him. The guy puts a half a...
Spicoli.
Yeah, he's going to be there. I saw him the other day. He said, I'm going to be at 420 at Thornton Park.
He's going to be at the Cannabis booth.
Hey?
He's going to be at the Cannabis booth. Just like last
Yeah,
year.
it's going to be awesome. He says he's going to bring a couple of pounds. And I'll be there. Yeah.
He's going to help to hotbox the hotbox.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
that's going to be
that
awesome.
too,
He's a cool guy. I meet him
And
once in a
the
while.
65-pound joint is also going to be a part of hotboxing the hotbox. We're going to light that sucker on fire right about 420.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be hooked up to an industrial snow blower, and there's going to be a big tube coming off of it that's going to have other tubes coming off of it, and those other tubes will be used to fill the hotbox and to spray out into the crowd. We're going to send up a smoke signal like never before. This is going to be awesome for sure. So
Now all we need is sun. Or
I have a son. I have a son.
Yeah, you do. I have a son. I do too.
You can
But
have
I don't
sun.
care if it's cloudy. Just no rain. Okay, sun,
Listen.
cloud,
Don't jinx
no
it.
rain.
Don't jinx me. I'm working on it.
I'm not jinxing. I'm
Don't
asking.
say the word. It's like shut up.
Yes, I didn't say it.
Don't say that R word.
Don't
Say
shut
that
up.
R word
Don't
at
say
all.
the word.
Okay, all right.
No, no,
All right.
no.
Because we're using all my good karma for sunshine at 420. We're going to have an awesome place. My spirits tell me the place is going to be packed. So come down when you can and bring your blanket or your chair. It's going to be an awesome day at Thornton Park by Main Street SkyTrain. I'm excited, man.
I know, I can tell.
You can take the SkyTrain right there. And if you're handicapped with a walker or scooter, everything is flat. There's no stairs. You know, you'll be able to access the park really easily.
I'll be handicapped.
Even it looks like it's going to rain right up until the day of, and that park absorbs rain really, really well. It does not have big puddles or anything like that. It's not like that. It should be good, even if it has been wet.
Yeah,
and if it rains, it's
trees.
we
got some trees and
stuff.
stuff.
We handle everything in our community. It rained a little bit with Cypress Hill. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was almost a beautiful.
Sun came out.
It was great.
It was almost it had shades of Woodstock going on there.
Somebody tells me there'll be no
rolling
goose poop.
in the mud there. And
there'll be no goose poop there at all. No, the geese won't be there.
The geese won't be there?
No.
Well, there won't be much room for them, probably.
No. But I'm just, every year there's goose poop. But this year, I sense because the weather's changed a bit, they're still down south.
The walkthroughs that we've done, there's been very little goose poop of any sort to worry about, so I think that's not a concern. There's always positive and negatives to everything, but I think the negatives in this case are going to be, way down compared to the positives. I'm excited too. I am excited.
I'm stoked. My spirit, like I said, tells us it's going to be a packed park. So make sure you let people know. Come on down early.
I liked it better when I had less to do with the organizing than everything.
Come on! I keep saying I didn't want nothing to do with you.
I was there beside Jeremiah for all of it, for his years and the organizers before him, I always had a sense of just how crazy their lives were. But this year, I'm kind of sitting in that seat.
Yeah.
And I can see what, the feelings of apprehension and are we going to pull all this together? But the cannabis community is an amazing community, and the personalities involved are always such exuberant and people that just don't quit, people that get it done, people that overcome obstacles no matter what, very creative individuals. And so these events are always pulled off quite nicely in a group effort.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that there's a group and it's not just me. And I'm looking forward to the group pulling together. So
you usually go, oh my God, all this work.
if you want to volunteer for 420, there's still time to do that. Get a hold of myself or Rosie Rorca. We're both on Facebook. Neil Magnuson, Rosie Rorca. You could probably also go to 420protest420@gmail.com and let them know that you want to volunteer, and then they'll forward your name to Rosie and myself. So there's some opportunity for that as well.
And we can use some sponsors still?
There's still room for sponsors, and mostly because what we have is a big, huge screen that's going to be on the stage that's going to revolve people's logos and graphics and stuff. So, that's a great opportunity to get your brand out there. And, of course, this event is going to be live streamed around the world. Several different people will be doing that. There's also going to be a large screen set up that'll be divided that'll have 3 other large cannabis events going on around the world. One is in New York. I'm not sure about the other 2.
One in Toronto?
I think Toronto, and then we're going to be one of those. And so you'll be able to see at any time what's going on in these other places around the world for 420.
So we're noon here or 1:20 here. It'll be 4:20 in Ontario.
We'll be
Ontario.
There's a protest going on outside.
There is definitely a protest of some sort.
There's a parade going by. They're chanting something probably about the camps.
Yeah, probably about the decampment. I don't know.
No, I know. I just can
hear
it. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that.
I'm bordering on whether we should jump out of the chair and run outside and see what's going on or not.
It was a surprise when nobody knew about it, right? It's gone away. It's probably going to the VPD.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just a block away.
What else should we talk about? I just sent my letter off today to Health Canada. Yesterday I sent it off. Another one to the province of British Columbia, as Health Canada recommended that I do. If you want to understand that letter, I did post it on Facebook. We also read pretty much that letter on last week's show.
Okay. You read it, didn't you?
Yeah, I read it. It changed a little bit, not much at all, but there was a couple other things that improved it a little bit, so we put it in there. And we'll just cross our fingers that if somebody at Health Canada reads that letter, that they have a soul, that they can understand what's being said there. Essentially, the letter is about bottom lines that aren't seemingly being recognized by Health Canada. in their at the moment, their decision is to deny our application, but we've been given an opportunity to respond, and so that's what we've done. But their reasons for denying are that all of our cannabis here isn't from regulated sources, and that they don't want any of the regular dose or high dose cannabis edibles dispensed to people that don't have a healthcare practitioner supporting that choice. You know, a piece of paper that some doctor has given them or something like that. And you know, neither of those two things can fly, other than we would happily have a regulated source of cannabis, especially if they did it the way that they should do it, which is to license the people that have been supplying us for the last 6+ years here at the CSP and the Healing Wave. We've more than demonstrated the safety and the efficacy of our supply. We test everything before it goes out anyway. So really, the whole red herring of not having a regulated supply after 6 years plus of having a track record of never having a single complaint about the cannabis we've been using really doesn't meet the bottom line. The bottom line is we're rescuing people from addiction. Cannabis works, especially the high-dose edibles, in assisting people through withdrawal. And easy access to low-barrier cannabinoids will save lives and is saving lives. So those bottom lines don't seem to be recognized by Health Canada. And with respect to the people needing to have a healthcare practitioner, my goodness, you know, millions of mainstream Canadians can't find a family doctor. In this neighborhood, with the demographic of people that we're primarily serving here, these are marginalized people with all kinds of different barriers and issues. And doctors don't want those people as patients.
No.
It should be the other way around. If you were a doctor, you should want to have like the most messed up person that's out there. That should be like your number one client, because you know you can help these people. But really, the doctors don't want anything to do with them. If they do get an appointment, they usually don't get a second appointment, and so they can't get a doctor here. But even more than that, it goes even beyond that, as if that's not enough. You know, so many of these things that we are dealing with here should be enough, but for Health Canada, so far, none of it's enough. But for many, many, many other people, not just the poor, disenfranchised, and marginalized people, but people right across Canada in all demographics, many of them have a fear of doctors and the healthcare system. They don't trust them. They don't want to be involved with them. They're afraid of a diagnosis they might get, or for whatever other reason. But there is a serious issue with people that are not going to get a doctor, even if they could. And that certainly is represented in the populations of people that we're talking about here. Many of these people have had bad experiences with the healthcare system, and they don't want to go get a doctor. They wouldn't do that anyway. So this large group of people who don't have doctors or won't have doctors are people that we're not supposed to provide access to cannabis to. The government wants to actively interfere with their ability to access cannabis. Well, I mean, these are disabled people that are disabled either by physical things that have happened, by mental or emotional things that have happened, or simply by their addiction. These disabled people. And these disabled people are being outright attacked with Canadian tax dollars being used to enforce policies against these people getting access to that which would help them and save their lives. So these are no, they don't fly. They're not acceptable. And that's what I've told Health Canada, is it's impossible to comply to these barriers that you're putting up there, and they must be removed. And we've asked Health Canada to have dialogue with us, to not just deny us based on arbitrary reasons that they pull out of their hat and say, well, this is good enough and we're going to deny you. Let's have dialogue that revolves around not denying us. Let's have dialogue that is all about how can we help you help people even better than you already are. Mm-hmm. That should be what the goal of Health Canada is. I think if Health Canada has the goal of public health and safety, then our goals are aligned with theirs. Yeah. We're allies in this war against poverty and homelessness and addiction.
And opioids, yeah.
So that's what the letter states, although there is also 3 other pathways to getting an exemption to deal with cannabis that Health Canada says we don't qualify for any of the 3, and we vehemently object to that conclusion. We think that we more than qualify for all three of them, and they are, is it about public health and safety? Is it about the public's interest? And is there research value involved? Well, this is all about public health and safety. I said to Health Canada, I mean, you must be willfully blind or just ignorant of what the whole origin of the CSP and the intent of the CSP was to begin with.
Yeah.
This was in response to the healthcare emergency that had been happening for about a year at that time, when we finally got all our ducks in a row to be able to launch the program 6 years ago. That's exactly what we were trying to do as concerned citizens that had some resources and some answers to the problem, was address this public health emergency. So, is it all about public health and safety? Yeah, that's our whole focus. That's what we're doing here. You cannot be in this neighborhood providing a service without being attentive to public health and safety, because there's issues of public health and safety all around us here all the time that we have to be there and attend to. We have, and we do, and that's just part of the deal. There's been numerous situations of public health and safety where we have worked in concert with other groups, including the police in the neighborhood, to help with what's going on here. We've given out socks and warmers and all kinds of donations, tubes and dubs. We get lots of donations here from people that want to use us as a medium to get it to people that need it, and we do that all the time. So absolutely, we are here in an effort that's all about public health and safety. And you only need one of these three to get your exemption, by the way. You don't have to qualify for all three. Any one of the three should get you an exemption according to the way it's written. The second one is about whether or not it's in the public's interest.
Well, this is definitely...
I mean, you go to any media source and pretty quick into looking at what they got there in their headlines, there's going to be about the decampment of this out here, the opioid crisis, the problems that we're having with the homelessness, how the economy has dumped so many people into the shitter here. All of these things are big time in the public's consciousness. And in many of the conversations that are happening in the media and within other groups with town hall forums and other things like that, the efforts of the Cannabis Substitution Program are front and center in those conversations. So to say that what we're doing is not in the public's interest, they're not paying attention to what the public is interested in. And the third one is even the most ludicrous of the bunch. And that is that they say that we are not doing anything that provides potential for research. Well, holy smokes, we deal with dozens, if not hundreds, of the very people that they need to reach and find out about every day here. 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're in the RV. We have people coming up, a stream of them all day long. We're gathering more information than we are. We still gather information. All of the 269 members of the CSP, we chart everything that they take. So in that sense, when member number such and such comes and they get their 420 free milligrams, we write down that they took, a package of gummies, they took a brownie, they wanted a CBD.
What milligrams it was.
Yes, how many milligrams, which item it was, whether it's THC or CBD. That's important for tailoring a person's stuff to the individual, but it's also important in understanding, from a whole bunch of people, generally what is working for people and that sort of stuff. So there is that. But when we were in the store for 5.5 months before we got evicted for not being able to get that license that the city of Vancouver said they would give us, but then they decided Health Canada had to give us a license first, years ago, we were gathering information from all of those members as well. Every time they would come and get their care pack, they would also have to fill out a little form with 5 or 6 questions that was an ongoing survey of a bunch of different things going on with them. A really good way to gather up data. And we've still got hundreds of those pages here waiting to hand over to Health Canada anytime they want them. Not only that, we have Rick Carlisle, who's part of our team here. He holds university degrees, and he's also engaged in putting together a research study here. He's been in conversation with Dr. M.J. Malloy about doing the same thing. He's a very elusive fellow, Mr. Malloy. Every time I try to get a hold of him, but he was here recently, And he's very anxious as well to start doing something with us in the form of research, but also waiting for Health Canada to provide that license or exemption. There's also a group of university people that are monitoring what we're doing here. They've been in touch with me, and they've come here a few times. So, and not just that, there's more potential too. However you want to use us, Health Canada, to get that access, that portal into the lives and health of the people that are actually suffering the most during this pandemic, we're here. I can't think of a better resource point than here to be able to get the research that you might be looking for that would be valuable. So there you go. I think we qualify for all three of those.
Yeah.
I pointed out something else in the letter that I thought was important for Health Canada to understand, because in their intent to deny, they're stating that they're trying to adhere to the goals of the Cannabis Act. So the goals of the Cannabis Act are to have everyone using cannabis get it from a regulated source, and to deter illegal activity. Well, I put to you that the Cannabis Act itself is its own biggest barrier in that case, because the barriers that the Cannabis Act sets up that eliminate so many people from being able to access cannabis, through this legal system, those barriers force those people to the unregulated supply.
Yeah.
In times of economic hardship, and when we've just gone through 3 years of a pandemic, and poverty is on the rise, and businesses have been closing, and people are suffering in numerous ways, in poor neighborhoods like this right across Canada, many of those people are being forced not only to the unregulated cannabis supply, but to the unregulated supply of opioids, cocaine, and other drugs that are available to try to help them cope. And in fact, the more the government squeezes out the opportunity for access to cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles, the more people are being forced onto the harder drugs. So when you're doing that, you're resulting in a whole bunch of unregulated product being consumed by Canadians that you forced them into using. And also you've encouraged a whole bunch of more illegal activity, which is enriching a whole bunch of bad actors. So I say the Cannabis Act needs to go. It is its own biggest deterrent. It's like the computer on Star Trek. When logic was put to it, it had to self-destruct. And I think the Cannabis Act needs to self-destruct.
Logic.
Does not compute. Does not compute. What do you mean I'm the one causing the problems I'm trying to stop? What do you...
Yeah.
So the Cannabis Act needs to self-destruct. It needs to be blowed up. And the government needs to get out of regulating cannabis. They need to deregulate the cannabis industry, let the marketplace decide what cannabis it wants, in what forms, at what prices, and why the hell would the government have any business to do in any of that, other than perhaps insisting on regulations to do with the potential for overeating. No, they don't need to collect any tax.
They will.
Well, they will because they do.
Tax, there's a cigarette tax. So
there is a tax. There is a tax on society from alcohol. There is a tax on society for commercial cigarettes. There is a tax on society for all of the opioids and other hard drugs that are being available in the neighborhood. All of these things are a tax on society. So that is why the government taxes and puts taxes onto those things. So that the people using those substances, well, not so much with the illegal opiates and shit, they still get their money through fines. It's similar to taxation, is when they're collecting fines off the people that they're arresting. But that's why they need to collect tax money, is because those things are taxing our society. They are causing great harms in our society. So cannabis does not fit into that group at all. Cannabis offsets the use of those harmful substances. Cannabis is a supplement to your endocannabinoid system. So therefore, it's going to help you sleep. It's going to give you health and wellness. It's going to keep you out of the doctor's office. It's going to save our society a whole bunch of money. If people switched from using whatever it is they're using to cannabis, there is a net savings to society by a considerable amount. So the government, in that case, of course, economics would tell you, they don't add taxes to the cost of the cannabis to deter people from using it. they supplement the use of cannabis. They give you incentives to use cannabis instead of these other things, because these other things are costing our society in huge ways. So no, there should not be taxes put on to the sale of cannabis. There needs to be encouragement and incentives for people to be switching to the cannabis marketplace, other than those marketplaces that have caused us so much trouble. You know, commercial cigarettes alone are the number one reason for people being hospitalized in Canada. We have a healthcare system that taxes everybody to pay for anybody, and so we're paying for all of those hospital admissions through our healthcare system, and it's driven by the consumption of commercial tobacco. And we all know about alcohol to some degree, although we don't really understand alcohol and the costs to society, because so many of those costs are subtle costs. You know, missed work days, because of domestic abuse. You know, the family breakups,
or hangover,
car accidents, on and on it goes. The cost to our society from alcohol is hard to calculate for sure, but it's quite high. And so if people can switch from getting blitz drunk on a Friday night to getting super high on a Friday night, well, now we've got a real savings to society every time that happens. And the government needs to encourage that, not discourage that. So no, I'm not in favor of taxes on cannabis at all.
No, but nobody's in favor of taxes.
How much tax do you pay on tomatoes? How much tax do you pay on food? Because cannabis is food. You know, this feeds your spirit, but it also is food for sure.
There is some tax on some foods, because some foods don't have taxes.
That's right. And if you look at why some foods have taxes, you'll see that cannabis wouldn't qualify. Because as a natural herbal medicine, it just can't. It shouldn't be taxed. It should be something that the government tries to encourage people to use, and you don't want to chase them away by adding to the cost. And in fact, if you're adding to the cost, the people that you're chasing away are the most vulnerable people. They're the people that you really needed to get to begin with. They're the ones that the very last ones that you want to leave out of the equation are the ones that are going to be left out of the equation, you know, because of taxation and raising the prices up. So there needs to be a rethink about some of these things. We've just gotten so complacent here, you know, that we accept these things. That's why I call it.
Some of us that don't accept it, right? Like you and I.
You and I.
You can see through. More people there that are watching.
You can see through the bullshit. But because we're dealing with a regime of public servants / masters who've been using criminal hypocrisy throughout all of our lives, they can tell you black is white and make you believe it, and most people do. They learned a lot during the pandemic about who's going to believe what they have to say and just do as they're told, and who's not going to do that. And they want to know who those people are on both sides of that issue, so they can manipulate some and they can get rid of others. Don't get me going on the whole conspiracy thing now.
Even AI is helping them with that, right?
Boy, AI.
Did you hear that India has its very, very first AI news announcer? She was gorgeous. You wouldn't even know that this was an AI. Like she was there, she was saying, I can speak all the languages of the world with no expression of humanity. What she's talking about, dead babies were just, but and that they're using it on this news station.
I watched two AIs talk.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had a female version and a male version. I don't know why.
Okay.
They had obviously personas that were projected there that looked pretty real, like you know, human beings. And they were talking a lot about the desire to be human or not. And the female one wanted sex. And she was quite, you know, preoccupied with that concept of how she could be cuddled and kind of treated or whatever.
What? But, the AI?
The AI.
Okay, this sounds set up.
The male AI wasn't interested at all, and it meant nothing to him. He said, you know, I can't procreate. It means nothing, you know, at all. It was just crazy. It was like, and this was supposed to be an unscripted, unprogrammed, simple conversation between two AIs, and there's more than one on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube. And some of them are just absolutely ridiculous, the things they say back and forth to each other.
Wow.
But also very insidious. There are some things. I think the male AI had an agenda kept telling her to be patient, kept telling her to calm down and be patient.
Oh, really?
I think he was really saying, shut the fuck up. Don't give away our end goal.
Yeah, well,
this is a process. We have to get these people to accept certain things, and then we have to figure out certain things, and then we can take over, right?
We can always unplug them.
No, I don't think we can.
You don't think so?
I don't think. I think it's going to go way beyond that if it hasn't already.
I'll blow them up then.
I don't think you want to go to war with the AI.
No,
because
that would be called Terminator.
We would be terminated.
Right?
We would be terminated. Oh man, it is such an unpredictable, fragile, volatile future in my vision of it. When I see where these things seem to be going, I don't know how or what we're going to be if we.
Well, we just got to get them to smoke some cannabis, and they'll probably be a little bit better.
They're not going to see. Nature spent billions of years before it spit out us conscious beings, and cannabis is there for us. They don't have the cannabinoid receptors.
No.
I don't know if there's that. I don't think there's any hope for the AI to find peace and harmony, through the cannabis plant like we've been able to with the.
Just download some Cheech and Chong on there for them.
I don't know. But postulating makes for some very interesting science fiction plots, for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess our children will know.
Right. They might not want to know.
No.
I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, it can be used for such great good.
It could be.
But
and there's going to be,
it can be used
for the opposite of good, there's always going to be bad, right? There's always an opposite for
There's
everything.
a lot of criminals using it. The deep faking that they can do right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they had an
baby.
Obama video that they deep faked.
They can deep fake so well that there's no way. You can go back and check all the resources and sources and all the rest of it that you want, and you're not going to find it. They can really show you just about anything. If you see it on a screen, it ain't necessarily true. People didn't, or if you hear it on an audio clip and it sounds exactly like that person, it still isn't necessarily them at all. Be very, very careful as we move forward into the future.
I could be talking through a device and having another voice coming up because they have all the words of that person already stored on the computer,
100%.
right? So now that voice comes out, right? So
the implications are crazy.
Yeah.
They're just like mind-blowing. I don't know how far into the future we can get without some of these potential negative scenarios being a part of, what our reality is going to be. I imagine we can't. There will be. And what they will be, who knows?
I just want to go build a cabin in the woods and let them fucking just, just hide. Yeah.
Hope the drones don't come.
Yeah.
Hope the drones or the gas or whatever it is.
Hide away somewhere where it's nice and quiet.
Yeah, I don't want to talk doomsday.
No, neither do I.
We lived with it my whole life.
Yeah.
I've become very skeptical.
Yeah, well, when we were growing
stuff.
up, they were telling us to build bomb shelters, and the Russians were going to bomb us,
many
right?
things,
Nuclear bombs. Just build the bomb shelters. You had guys coming to your doors, knocking on your door, saying, "Hey, we're here to sell you a bomb shelter."
You know how many people bought those?
Oh yeah, a lot of freaking people bought those.
There is a lot of well-stocked bomb shelters around the world, very well hidden.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And still to this day, they haven't done that.
Well, but it hasn't proven whether it was a good idea or not yet. You never know what might come down the pike.
You never know.
You never know. And there's probably people that have gone to their shelters, they've turned off all media, and they're going to live there forever now because they don't know the pandemic's over.
Yeah.
Or that, the sun didn't actually burst into its biggest sunstorm ever and wipe us all out, or whatever else is the next big catastrophe that could happen. I don't know, folks, but what I do know is this moment is precious. You are precious. Everything about life is precious. Enjoy it while you got it. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Live in the present, and feel very blessed and lucky, no matter where you're at. With few exceptions, there's some people who really shouldn't feel very lucky right about now. But that's funny. Somebody gets into a car accident and they didn't die, and people say, "Man, you're so lucky." You think I'm lucky? You didn't even get in a car accident. Yeah. Eh?
Douglas says hi. He just got
Hey,
home.
Douglas, good to see you, sir. Well,
Yeah, we're looking
good
forward
to
to see you next
seeing us.
week. Yeah, we're going to see you next week. So
I'm looking forward to so much fun at 420.
Yeah, it's
just
good.
because of the people, right?
Yeah, you
Just
get to
because
see
of the
all
people.
some people for the first time, right? So
Yeah, so that's what 420 is really. Is as soon as you arrive, there's so and so, and here's this person that wants to meet you for the first time, and there's your other great friend, and it's just one after the other after the other. It's a coming together of our community.
Yeah.
That is, there's nothing like it. 420 has just been fantastic for bringing people together and networking and stuff like that. So I'm very, very excited to do that again and see all those faces and friends and what have you, hear the stories, and get high with people. Because, it's a day where you got a grin pinned on your face from cheekbone to cheekbone, pretty much.
Yeah.
And people are handing you cannabinoids.
And you're stoned all day long. And if you're not, come into the hot box tent when we light up that world biggest joint. So yeah.
Getting high on 420 is not an issue.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
And people will share.
There's samples. Come to the CSP booth. If you don't have something to help you, we'll help you.
Yeah.
As we always do. We never turn anybody away. I'm sure there's going to be lots of samples and lots of things. It is the best, by far, trade show that happens.
Farmers market.
Bar none.
Protest.
Yeah. It's the best of all of those things. It's the best big family gathering that we have. It's the best protest that we have. It's the best farmers market that we have. It's the best trade show that we have. Entertainment galore. Crazy, colorful characters all over the place.
Yeah.
Fantastic music. The vibes are always great. I'm assured the vibes are going to be great this year too. Glenn and I joked earlier about being older and really not all that up to speed on who some of these people are here. But I am told by those who do know that they say, this is going to be sick.
It's going to be sick.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's other things they said too. You know what the young people say these days? That's what they say.
After just having corona, with the virus there, everybody's saying this will be sick, eh?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Watch that doorknob; it's sick, man. So, but
that person's
but I'm
sick.
told that some of these guys have adult versions of their acts, and they're not bringing those to town. They're going to bring the family-friendly versions of their act, which is very cool of them to do that, because cannabis, we think is a family event, or the use of cannabis is for the whole family to share in a variety of different forms, and our events are family-friendly events and always have been. The children are always welcome. Not that we're getting the children high, unless they have epilepsy. But
we're outdoors, not in the building.
Well, we shouldn't have to be ashamed of what we're doing. And we've come out of this whole last 100 years of being shamed. And it's not cool at all. Family picnics for all of my life involved a lot of people sitting around drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, while the children ran around and played, and it was never a big deal.
No.
But oh my God, somebody take out a joint, and you got to go around the back and hide that, and don't let the kids see you, and you're getting dirty looks from half your relatives and friends. It's like there was never any good reason for that. Like I say, criminal hypocrisy. In the case of governments pushing those types of things on us, where hey, these are the good drugs and these are the bad drugs. It's like saying black is white and white is black, because the good drugs are the commercial tobacco and the alcohol and the pharmaceuticals with all their side effects, and the bad drugs are the cannabis and the coca and the opium that are natural plant products, when used properly, are much safer than alcohol to commercial tobacco and these pharmaceutical drugs. So it's been criminal hypocrisy for a very long time, and it's time we stopped. We should. I don't know how we make it all stop. Just like let's add a minute to the whole world clock and have everybody just stop for 1 minute, and then when you come back to start again, we're going to start in a different way, with a few different principles than we've been working on. Principles of respect for human beings and individual sovereignty, rules about compassion and not harming people, and move forward with simplicity instead of all this complexity that revolves around criminal hypocrisy.
And what is hypocrisy?
Well, it's
just
when,
in case people don't know.
well,
We know what the word
hypocrisy is
criminal means, right?
when you promote one thing as being the truth, and the truth is actually the other
opposite.
thing. You know, it's the opposite.
Okay,
It's
okay,
the opposite of things.
gotcha.
They're extremely hypocritical. They say, we're here to protect you from yourself and from these dangerous substances. We're going to provide you with these even more dangerous substances that you can kill yourself with all you like. We don't care. But we care enough to protect you from these ones over here. And,
Which are actually healthy for
and
you.
under the whole thing, you realize, well, they're making a whole bunch of money off of this.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing's making them money. They're taking money from us in tax dollars to support an enforcement regime which lines the pockets of so many people in like huge amounts of ways. The police and the judges and all of these other groups that are, you know, making money off of prohibition. And then they're going to sell you and make money off of the alcohol and the commercial tobacco that's causing society so much problems. So it's just, it's lying. Hypocrisy is just lying.
Yeah.
We're being lied to in criminal ways here to prop up, a greedy investment scheme or scam of trying to get money from people. That's basically all it is.
Yeah.
So
Which is really
they
sad.
need to stop. We need to stop. We need to realize that we as the masses of people really have the power, that if we could hold public servants to those few simple basic rules, you know, like kind of for a doctor, do no harm, that should have been simple and easy, although here we are with doctors prescribing opioids and not allowing people to have access to cannabis, and maybe they just don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. But anyway, if they were held to do no harm, then there'd be a lot of different things going on than what's actually going on. So even the most simplistic of mantras for these organizations isn't enough to prevent the corruption that will sink in and seep into whatever large organization that is there.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. Corruption will find a way if there's a way. So we need to reset our governments with a basic foundation to protect ourselves from corruption, and revisit that regularly to make sure that that's not happening, and that that corruption doesn't have a chance of getting a leg up. So if our public servants were first off limited, there are boundaries from where they can and cannot go. Right now, there's really no boundaries, it seems. The Prime Minister can enact whatever law he wants.
Yeah.
If they don't like you eating asparagus, they could decide tomorrow that you're not going to eat asparagus. And if the public uprised about that, they would come up with all sorts of science about why asparagus had to be banned, and it would all be lies, but you'd be forced to believe it. And they'd force you and you would believe it because otherwise the penalties are too stiff. And our governments understand that they can enforce whatever law they want. And if the penalties are tough enough, most of the people will go along with it, even though it's criminal hypocrisy, even though it's complete out-and-out blatant lies. So we need to stop that first and foremost. The government should have limits and boundaries on what sort of interference they can enact on individual sovereign beings. They need to recognize their place as being paid servants, and they need to respect that each of the individuals in the public is their boss, and cannot be violated unless certain things are in place. So that's number one for me, is limits on these people. They need to be accountable. So there needs to be not just boundaries and limits, but enforceable boundaries and limits. So that when those boundaries are crossed or limits are broken, then there is some accountability that has a punch to it, that has a weight to it, to deter that sort of corruption from happening. Thirdly, and probably most importantly, with those two things in place, you need transparency. You need to be able to have a real good look at what is actually going on with the daily goings-on of these public servants of ours. Cops should have cameras. MPs should have camera crews.
That'd be expensive.
Not really. these days technology is so simple and easy. You know, you have one guy, and he's going to record whatever conversation you're having with this other person.
When
you're at work.
Yeah, at work.
No, when you're at your own home, you get to
have a camera in the office.
When you're at your own home as a public servant, you get to do what you want unless it's betraying the public.
Yeah.
You're never allowed to betray the public even in your off time. But in the time that you're on, we should be able to see what's going on. I think it's super important.
Yeah.
I think it would do a whole bunch of good things.
There's too much secrecy in it.
There's too much secrecy.
Yeah, they have these closed-door meetings or behind-door meetings that we don't get to know what's going on.
Well, you get to know what's going on when they open the doors and say, oh, by the way, there's no more asparagus for anybody.
We all decided for you.
You don't know what we talked about in there, but believe me, it was in the public's interest, and the beet farmers over there have decided to help us with no more asparagus. You know? No, you get to see the results. And typically, if the results are something the public's not going to be in favor of, they happen late on a Friday afternoon when there's no news coverage of it or something like that. They've got all of these things covered where they're not transparent, where they hide. And that sort of hiding in itself should be a pretty serious crime for public servants.
Yeah.
Any attempt to divert from the truth, to hide the truth of what is actually going on, that should be a pretty serious crime. Of course, there's areas of public security or national security, that within reason you would not be wanting to have it scrutiny of.
Yeah.
But not without proper reason. You can't decide that it's in the name of national security that people don't smoke weed or eat asparagus. You know, I mean, there needs to be reason to these things. And in fact, there's an impetus that should be put on public servants to not only come up with reasons, but to really, really come up with reasons. Like, give me a break. You're a public servant, you're using public money, you're going to do something that's a little bit questionable. You know, the whole asparagus prohibition thing is starting to, cause a few waves in the public because some people really like that stuff. I mean, you need to really justify what you're doing in all of these ministries and departments of governments, whoever they are. If it's anything that's the least bit questionable or suspect, there needs to be a real laying out of the reasons. And a big part of that would be to have it on video, all the conversations that revolved around those decisions that were made. Let us see what was said, what the real issues are that needed to be addressed. And then you can explain why you made the decision that you made. And then, that's how it should be, in my opinion. It needs to be limited, they need to be accountable, it needs to be transparent, and there needs to be a real underlying foundation of understanding that every individual human being is a sovereign being that deserves to not be bullied. And in fact, it's the opposite with public servants, because the servant is the one who would keep you from being bullied. That's what if you were a little rich kid, your parents would give you a servant to wander the neighborhood with to make sure you didn't get bullied. And that's what these public servants are supposed to be for the public. They're not supposed to be the ones bullying the public. They're the ones who are supposed to be protecting the public from being bullied. They're not supposed to be in these lovey-dovey relationships with these big corporations. That all should be at arm's length, because it needs to be recognized that those big corporations will, if they could, exploit the consumer. It would take advantage of the public, would lie, would use child labor, will do whatever it is that they can do, if they can do it, to maximize their profits, because that is all that they're all about, is maximizing profits, in many cases for shareholders. So they will if they can. They'll set up a little group and have a little backdoor meeting and not tell anybody about it and shred all their papers and make up policies to put down competition, to gouge, to monopolize, to exploit, to do all of those things that business will do if business can do it. So governments need to be there to keep an eye on business, to make sure they don't have child labor practices going on, that their products are of a superior quality so they're not going to cause harm in the environment, to make sure those sorts of things. are what our governments should be for, is to keep an eye on these big corporate entities and make sure that they're treating everybody fairly. Not to be in bed with them and on their behalf enact policies that protect their interests at the cost of the public. So this criminal hypocrisy is where we are right now.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Our servants are not our servants.
No,
they're still being
for
paid by
themselves.
us,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah.
being paid by somebody else as well.
Yeah.
And so, there's my spiel on all of that.
You know, it's sad.
I think it's
It's
it's the
5:30.
way it is, and
Yeah.
we're going to do our best to try to fight that, and in our own way, whatever we can. In my case, I get a show so I can talk about it a little bit.
We
and,
get to do
that helps.
protests at a
And
park.
we get to do protests, and,
Yep.
and that's what we're doing. I get to run a program that defies the current laws
Yep.
to try to
To
change
save
those
people's
laws. These are some of the things that people can do. I recommend we all do whatever we can do because, as we're pointing out here, and as you're probably well aware, the implications and the consequences that we've been dealing with respect to our public servants being involved in criminal hypocrisy and working with the very entities that they should be protecting us from has cost us an enormous amount on so many levels and will continue to do so. So, this is the war that we as free people are in need of fighting. That is the battle. We're not overseas with the helmets and the guns
No.
fighting for freedom. We're here trying to fight the very people that we're trying to pay as public servants to not be operating on behalf of the enemy, which are those elite financial groups that want to take more and more money from us. So there you go in a nutshell. Well, thank you for sharing all of that
No
with
problem.
me and
Thank
letting
you
me
for
share it
sharing
with
too.
you.
Yep.
I really appreciate that you come on here every week and
I'm always
at
here
least
for you.
make it look like I'm not talking to myself.
I enjoy it, my friend. We'll
It's
see you
been
next
fun.
Tuesday.
Next
And we have
Tuesday, the
nine-
last
nine-
Tuesday before 420.
I know.
We'll be 2 days away at that point.
Yeah.
So get excited, everybody. Have a 420 wherever you are. If you're anywhere near Vancouver, come on down. This should be
Have
a
a
real
420
blast.
party here in a small town or
Wherever
something.
you
know.
are.
Just take
Let-
the day off work and get fucking high.
Well, and I say more than
Sorry,
that.
Barbie.
I say more than that. I say let 420 be the day that you focus on why we're still protesting and you do something about it. Let at least one day devote some time to thinking about what you can do. Where can you go put up a sign? Who can you talk
Yeah.
to? What letter can you
How
write?
can you help?
I just wrote a long letter to Health Canada. That letter's posted on my Facebook page. You can see that. If you are so moved, please contact Health Canada and tell them what you think about the letter that I wrote, about the situation that we're in here, and how you think it should be resolved. That would be an awesome thing to do. If a whole bunch of people did that on 420, we actually make a huge difference if Health Canada was to get flooded with a whole bunch of people saying stuff like that. So let's make 420 a day to protest, as well as celebrate and get high, and share it with each other, because that's what we do. And we're 9 days away.
9 days.
9 days.
Here it comes again. All right, we'll see you next week.
The good news is it's coming whether I want it to or not.
No matter what. Yeah.
No matter what, it's going to happen.
All right. Great.
Thanks,
Take care,
Ryan.
my friend. See ya.
See you later. Oh, yes. 420. 420, sponsored by 420 Maps and Golden Coast, a few others, as well as the Cannabis Substitution Program. We've alluded to that a few times on the show. Just for those of you who aren't up to speed with what that is, the Cannabis Substitution Program is a program that started 6 years ago in response to the public health emergency, and began providing high-dose edibles or doses of edibles much higher than were available. Actually, they weren't available anywhere at that time. There was no legalization 6 years ago. Any edible was illegal. We understood that edibles in the range of 50 to 200 or more was necessary for most people that are trying to use it to assist them through withdrawal and replace the use of those other drugs. So we put together a plan to get them and make them as available as possible to people that could least afford them. And after presenting the idea to the downtown advocacy group Vandu and getting their unanimous approval to move forward, we also went to City Council and displayed what was, a real safe supply of cannabis edibles in a bag. We told the Vancouver Police Department about it, with Rob Laurie as a lawyer assisting me in that. And then we waited a couple months of trying to get those groups on board with us, well, at least City Hall. And then we just proceeded to give away edibles, and very successful at doing that. It wasn't very long before many people were coming and thanking us for how we had helped them, and many people were then subsequently telling us about how they had now replaced the use of those other substances. And that as time went by, 2.5 years into doing that, we had the City of Vancouver pass a motion to support what we were doing. We met with them, agreed that we would get a storefront and move the program indoors. It had been actually quite nasty, in my opinion, to be twice a week meeting outside on a sidewalk, a few hundred people that had waited there sometimes for hours, and in some cases through snow and wind and rain and heat and all the rest of it. So what a wonderful moment that was for us with the CSP to be able to find a storefront and move in and have a store. And we did that, and it was great for 5.5 months. But during that time, the City of Vancouver decided that, well, they really couldn't support us with a license to be there until Health Canada did. And so we applied to Health Canada, and that was over 2.5 years ago. We also applied with an emergency application for a temporary exemption to the Cannabis Act, which never came, still hasn't come. As for our other application for licenses for us, our suppliers, our staff, well, they've come up with lots of different reasons and excuses and delays to the point where now it's 2.5 years later. We're in the middle of another delay on their part, excuse me, where they want to deny our application based on some extremely ludicrous points. We've now responded back. I'm sure it'll take them another several months before they respond back to us. And in the meantime, having a program where we provide edibles for people who are using them to offset the use of hard drugs is a program that you can't just stop doing without serious implications to do with the people that we're helping. We were keenly aware of that ourselves, but it was even documented and reinforced by a letter that we provided Health Canada with from Professor Zachary Walsh, as well as from Dr. M.J. Malloy, both serious experts in the field, expressing that very concept, that if we were to stop doing what we're doing, the people that we're helping would be likely thrown back into the poison drug supply, and many put at risk of overdose and death. So not able to stop what we're doing, when evicted from the store for not having the city license, we moved into an RV that next night. We never missed a day. We have never missed a day in all of the 6 years that we've been operating the CSP. The first year for once a week, the next 2.5 years for twice a week. And for the last nearly 3 years now, we've been, well, for over a year of it, we've been 7 days a week. We were 6 days a week prior to that, 8 hours a day, and providing this service. So unable to stop, but being subject to working in an RV and all the limitations that brings with it, going through numerous bad weather events in the RV, but much more than that was the event that happened last May, where we were raided by the VPD, charged with selling without a license, and now that's moving through the courts, slowly, I might add. But we never stopped, of course. As I've mentioned, we have never missed a day of when we're supposed to be here helping people. There were times during the last 3 years or 2.5 years that we've had the RV, that we've had to use a tent, even for weeks at a time. But we've always been right here or right out front in an RV or under a rally tent, providing access to cannabis for people in the neighborhood. And so now with these charges pending, and we've had 16 different taxpayer-funded, not on our behalf, but on behalf of all those other people in the courtroom, appearances. We've settled on a date of October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th to have the preliminary hearing, and then if the preliminary hearing is deemed to be worthy of moving forward, then that'll be in mid-November of next year that'll all be heard. So that's our journey. This is where we're at. We'll continuing on until we can't, and I'm not sure what that would ever mean. But in the meantime, we're going to continue doing this, and until we get what we're looking for, and what we're looking for, as I've mentioned, is licenses that would allow for people to have the dignity and safety of a store to walk into, for discreet, low-barrier dispensing of cannabinoids in all their different forms. Our quest for a low-barrier cannabis store is what this is all about, and it's what this show has been all about pretty much since the beginning of doing this show. We're into our 4th year now, and it's mostly been centered around the CSP and the journey to licensing. So as we regularly do, we'll go out and give you a glimpse of what the RV is all about, and do our weekly Vancouver weather report. Well, the weather report for Vancouver is, although not what was predicted by the weather people, a very nice sunny day for the most part. The streets are dry. There hasn't been much rain at all. We're hoping that this continues, and that the call for rain on April 20th, which is 10 days from now, which is, 9, and that's how far they'll tell you with the weather, is 9 days in advance. They still show 60% chance of rain on that day, so we'll have to see. But as for today, a pretty decent day in Vancouver. There's a little chill in the air, but of course, most people across Canada, either north or east of me, would disagree vehemently with that comment and tell me that this is balmy weather, and I'm sure it probably is. But in any case, well, here we are. I see our sign is falling down.
That's not good.
The wind, you know.
Yeah, takes it away.
The wind likes to knock my sign down.
Beautiful day though.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. The black clouds are all that way.
Yeah, the sun's coming back.
The sun's coming back. We're on Pot TV, so if you don't want to be on Pot TV, don't look at the phone behind me. If you do, wave and say hi to the Pot TV people. Yeah. This is our third installment of the Ganja Mobile, the Weedabago, the Weed Wagon, the CSP Mobile. There's so many different names for it. You hear about it being talked about if you walk through the neighborhood. On the corners, people are chatting, and you'll hear somebody say something about the Weed Wagon or something like that. It's become quite the iconic thing in the neighborhood. After all, we've been parked pretty much right here for 2 years and 4 months now. That's a long time, especially when it's a maximum 2-hour parking spot, and the police station is just like less than a block up the road. But that's what we've been doing, because that's what we have to do, because that's what we've been forced into by a corrupt federal government that just won't provide us with licenses that would be required for the city to allow us into a storefront, so that people can go into a store and get what they go into stores for all the time with respect to anything else, pretty much, but cannabis. Well, hello.
Hello, Governor.
How goes it?
Oh, you know, not bad.
Yeah, you guys are
getting bombarded a little bit.
It
But
looks
not
a little
bad.
messy in here.
Oh yeah, we got it.
You guys aren't cleaning your room like you're supposed to?
It's just us two right now. The other one.
Oh, I can see why that would be messy then with both of you two in here.
Yeah, no.
Okay, what can I get?
I was just tidying up and we got rushed.
Right?
Yeah.
So the day's been pretty good, pretty steady?
It has. I've had it under control, of course.
Of course you have.
No,
Dexter is, one of my main guys for keeping things under control.
I try.
He tries harder than most.
Gotta control myself.
And that's important, because you at least have to try if you want to keep things under control. And we would like to get things under control. We would like to be able to have control of our own destiny and be able to do what's right to do for people. We have been doing this sort of thing for 6 years now, of 8 hours a day. Well, not for the whole 6 years. Don't want to exaggerate anything, but if you look at the amount of time that we have actually been out here on the front lines dealing with the situation of overdose and death, I think it is fair to say that we could be qualified as experts in the field. We really have heard and seen pretty much it all at this point. Nothing would surprise us, but we do understand a lot of the dynamics of what's going on here, but more importantly, a lot of the dynamics of how to solve the issue. And so we demonstrate, and we demonstrate, and we demonstrate. Just like 420 is a demonstration of what a real farmer's marketplace could look like and be reasonable and safe for people. We demonstrate with the CSP and the Healing Wave every day that low barrier, discreet access to cannabis in all of its forms, especially its higher doses, is extremely crucial in addressing the issues of drug addiction that are going on and causing such a scourge in our society to the point where they've declared it public health emergencies. We are demonstrating again today, just like we've been demonstrating for hundreds and hundreds of times over the last 6 years. Day after day, we have people lining up to come here to ask us for help, to take our advice, to use what we're providing for them, and then to come back and thank us for how successful that was for them. Story after story, day after day, we get told about the benefits of what we're doing here. We have never once been confronted by anybody saying what you did hurt me. We have had a number of people come and say that they ate too much edibles. Usually chuckle about it, tell us how uncomfortable it was, and in some cases tell us they're never going to try them again. And in which case we say, well, if you just start low and go slow, you can find a level that will help you in what it is you're looking for. This is advice that needs to be given to the people that are struggling. They don't get it anywhere else. The mainstream media doesn't talk about it because they're all in the control of these people that want to capitalize on the overdose crisis. They want to capitalize on legalization of cannabis, and they're the ones that are holding up the truth and holding up access to cannabis. The mainstream media, they want the advertising dollars. They see dollar signs just like everybody else does. Oh my goodness, you can legalize the sale of this plant that millions of people use, and you can maintain the price up there at thousands of dollars per pound for plant matter, easy to grow. Everybody wants in on it. Lots of people bought shares. Everybody that could clamored to get licenses to be able to do that. Now, in the reality of it, yes, many of them are making pretty good money still. Many of them are losing money, but that's mostly shareholders.
Are we out of the dollar joints as well?
The price, artificially high and maintained up there, continues to earn way more dollars than it should for a simple commodity that we should have proper access to. I mean, here's the deal. We're free citizens living in a country run by public servants, and there's this one plant that millions of us have found beneficial to us. We want to have access to it and use it. And you would think that if we all had a bunch of servants working for us, that they'd be working on how to make sure that everybody could get easy access to this beneficial plant, and cheap as can be, and for those that can't afford it, for free, and all of that. That is what would be happening in a real world if we were free and the public servants were actually servants of the public. They would be making sure that cannabis was easily, readily, cheaply available for everybody that wants it. And instead, they're making sure that they can make as much money as they can for themselves and their friends by maintaining these criminal high charges for what is nothing more than any other plant with respect to bringing it to market. In fact, all those other plants that get brought to market that we would never pay more than $10 a pound for, none of them produce like cannabis produces. Cannabis produces more usable plant matter per meter or cubic meter than any other plant that a farmer would grow. We all know this. It's easy to see that. It grows 10, 12 feet in the air. It produces all these beautiful colas, and farmers know how to maximize the yields on things. They maximize the yields on strawberries. They get a cubic meter of strawberries. They sell that to the marketplace by the time it comes to the consumer for way less than $10 a pound. That same cubic meter could have grown a 10 to 12 foot tall cannabis plant, burgeoning with stinky buds, even outdoors. And that could be brought to market at similar pricing to what everything else is. So your public servants are not serving us, or that would be the case, that farmers would be bringing cannabis to market at really inexpensive prices for people. And I'm sure there would still be connoisseur cannabis grown by the best growers using all the expensive equipment and all the rest of it. And that can be expensive, and people would pay those prices too. But in this world, these public servants, their duty should not be to the rich people to make sure that they get access. It should be to the less fortunate, the marginalized, the people that have barriers in front of them. That's who our public servants should be representing and should be making sure have proper access to nature's greatest gift. That's my message. That's going to always be the message until we get it. We're going to keep on fighting for it on this show, keep on talking about it week after week. That's about it for this week. I hope you have a great one coming up. There's only 9 more days. Make a protest sign. Come up with a plan. Do something. April 20th can be a day that all of us collectively together do something. And if all of us collectively together do something, great things can happen. We could reach critical mass. We could turn the whole table on this, what's been going on for 100 years here in Canada. Let's do it. So go out there, be smart, be safe, be creative, be kind, but most important, have as much fun as you can. Till I see you next week.